Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So we're back with part 2. We had a break talking about our relationship with Allah. And I'm joined by the same panel, Molana Sheikh, Honorable Sheikh Waseem, Molana Moeen, and our brother Saqib, and he who must not be named as well off camera.
Okay.
Oh, he has been named.
Yeah.
If you caught the name, then you've got a special, you've been watching very carefully these podcasts. But I wanted to just go maybe into our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, because we've been talking about developing it and coming, and this concept of mindfulness and awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talk about the names of Allah and learning them, but you can learn a lot and you can experience a lot, but you've got to constantly be in that sort of phase or form or sort of focus, and it's hard because we tend to get out of it. We tend to lose focus.
We tend to forget.
We tend to forget.
So
Insan.
can
Go ahead.
You were saying this, and exactly what I wanted to go on. When people want some success and they desire the success from their heart, okay, or they are having serious problems and they want to get out of those problems, and they feel somewhat hopeless as well. Now, some of the things you can say to people is Allah loves and cares for you more than you love and care for yourself. He cared for you when you couldn't even ask Him to care for you. Yeah, those are good words in order to build up that relationship. Then it goes into something much more deeper than that, which is something that words can't express, something which is more like a feeling, or you may call it spiritual, where you have this link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you secretly, let's just say secretly from yourself, know why Allah is doing something to you. So basically, everything that happens to us, Allah does. Mm-hmm. Everything, good or bad or whatever it is, everything that happens to us, Allah does. Yeah, and so therefore, if we had this mindset, because if you don't have a mindset, if it's not set up, you'll be upset.
Yeah, right.
So this mindset or mindfulness, as Sheikh Waseem was saying, shouldn't it be on this basis where I'm like an instrument in the hand of Allah? He can do whatever He wants with me. Whatever comes to me, alhamdulillah. Whatever goes from me, alhamdulillah. There's no way anybody can take anything away from me unless Allah will. No way anybody can give me something. Nobody can harm me or nobody benefit me.
And although we said now, this is actually something the Prophet ﷺ taught to his cousin Abdullah ibn Abbas when he was a young boy, Ghulam, which means like 10, 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
In your kalimat, ihfadillah yafadk, observe Allah, Allah will look after you. Know that everything or everybody, the whole creation, when they come to harm you with something, they could only harm you with what Allah had decreed against you. But they want to benefit you with anything and give you all the world, they could only give you that which Allah has decreed and written for you. Like the pens have lifted, pages have dried. Like, so this is a young boy is being taught this as a life mindset, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you see something or want something or something's bad's happening, remember, these people could not harm you if Allah did not want something to happen to you.
If you imagine yourself, this is like just maybe a practical advice for people. If you imagine yourself being protected by angels, and if calamity is to befall you, if it is meant for you, if Allah has written that for you, just imagine the angels have opened themselves up and they've made a door for you. For that calamity to fall upon you. That's practical advice for you. You can. I mean, you can't picture the angels, I guess, but the concept of it.
There's another one. There's the Quranic method of doing this, of how to build that relationship. Allah says, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. One of the best ways to realize that fact that nothing's going to harm me except if Allah wants, Allah's in control of all my affairs, is learning the stories of the prophets, because they were the best of people. Yet, in light of that, we've got, if we take a comparison,
just the translation of the ayah you mentioned first,
that and thus we narrate to you the stories of the messengers to strengthen your heart, to strengthen the heart. So if we look at prophets, we've got Ibrahim alayhi salam. Let's take a case study, and his grandson Yaqub alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam is being thrown into a fire, and he makes a dua. Yaqub alayhi salam loses his child, and he makes a dua. But it takes like 40 years for Allah to bring Yusuf back to Yaqub. But for Ibrahim, immediately Allah kills the fire for him. We need to realize that Allah does things as He wishes. يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ كَيْفَ شَاءَ أَيْنَمَا شَاءَ كَيْفَ مَا شَاءَ, however He wants. If you look at, for example, Musa alayhi salam, and we look at Yusuf alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, as he mentions, unknowingly strikes an individual and kills him. Yusuf alayhi salam is tempted by someone. Yusuf alayhi salam remains innocent, but he's thrown in the prison. Musa alayhi salam, in that sense, is not innocent because the person did die, but he is free, he's living in Madian, and he's married in Madian. And Allah can do whatever He wants, however He wants, whenever He wants. And we shouldn't question Allah in that regards.
Can we, for the viewers, make something clear? Because sometimes, I don't know whether any more comments have come through, but they say the scholars are talking about Quran, Hadith, or the stories of the great masters. But how does it relate to me? So,
I'm sorry, I need to stop you there. Your Lord knows you better than you know yourself, and He left you with the Quran. So these people who are seeking wisdoms in this thinker and that philosopher, and I need this phrase and I need that period, you're really gone down the wrong route. Allah left the Quran for you.
Yes.
You know, He sent down books, and those books were lifted. They were taken. They were made abrogated. Messengers came, and messengers were taken. But the Quran was sent, and it remained with us. Our success, إن الله يرفع بهذا الكتاب أقواما ويضع به الآخرين. Allah raises people through this book, and He abases or debases, or however you want to translate it, others through this book. Your success is through this book, through the Rasul salawatu rabbi wasalamu alayhi. So, to answer your question, when people say the ulama are talking about Quran and Sunnah, is because the answer is in the Quran and Sunnah.
Is in the Quran.
Stop seeking.
Now, how do you relate? We're coming to the non-alim in a second. So basically, how do you relate the Quran and the Sunnah to the challenges in life? For example, to
the physical demonstration of the Quran in the life of Rasulullah.
For the life of okay. So there's a lady who has an abusive husband. Okay, so she says, Allah is doing this to me. There's a man whose house has just got robbed. All his wealth has gone. He says, Allah did this to
husband, let her read Surah Mujadila. قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ. Allah's heard your complaint. Allah knows what you're going through.
She had a husband that had trouble with, and she complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that story is mentioned in the Quran. So I get what your point is, and I think it is a really important point that we know the stories, but we are, myself included, sometimes struggling to find a way into the process of rectification, of development.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about. And it's right, because you can hear all the things all day long, and they're absolutely brilliant. The Quran Sunnah.
But you don't have to relate.
Because of my emotional state, because of the damage I'm in right now.
Absolutely.
It's going over my head. I need you to connect with me in a different way. And it goes back to what you said, I think previous podcast, about understanding the person before you answer the question that you've understood in your head, that you're answering. So you made it a theoretical situation. This is the problem, this is the answer, you've said it. You got a human being in front of you. What happened to that? What happened to the emotion? What happened to the damage, the upset, the whole... And this is, we were talking about this off screen or off the podcast, about imams and Molanas and Sheikhs and their qualifications. Not all people even ask a question to are counsellors. Not all people who ask questions are muftis. So, you know, some might be experts in the Quran and Hadith, others might be experts in Aqidah and theology, others might be experts in, marital, reconciliation and so on and so forth. Others might be, good to go to business feuds and this kind of thing. So we've got to realise that not, an imam isn't a superhuman, right? and we were saying off air, that we've got to, this is actually wronging the imams and blaming them for just being human. In the world we live in, a scholar of language is a scholar of language. A doctor is a doctor. He's not, nobody compares to a doctor. Why don't you give me some psychological advice, doc? He's not a psychologist. He's a physiologist or whatever, right? So we've got to remember, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ فَاسْأَلْ بِهِ خَبِيرًا. You've got to go to the experts to get your answers. So for that situation, what we need to train the imams up as well, of course, and the people answering questions. But I think what we need to learn is a bit of emotional intelligence, a bit of listening skills, a bit of understanding that this person needs the story of Yusuf al-Islam, needs the story of, say the Aisha and the Prophet in a particular situation. But how do I bring that in and present that to this person right now?
How do you actually go according to the language of their emotion,
it's the level you
mentality, even physically and then spiritually as well. You need people, because
and I will say, almost like a defense of myself on this, I feel that there's a big, due to maybe the social media, there's a much more there's a much larger spectrum of people now. You know, people were on a spectrum. You could figure them out. Now this spectrum is like.
It was hard for you probably to work out of one class of 25 before, but now there's 2,000.
Thousands out there. So for somebody who maybe to deal with like one part of that spectrum, they should stick to that. You know, you can't help somebody like, so let's say you're teaching people a high level, and a convert to Islam comes to you. Are you really qualified to answer a question?
Absolutely.
Find somebody else. Or you're comfortable asking questions on basics, and somebody comes with you with a really complicated divorce situation. Maybe it's not for you to answer now.
You know, you was
so
asking.
We've got to remember where we can fit in as well.
You was asking before as well. You were saying how how the scholars are answering the questions, and I'm a normal layman, but I'm a prime example of it. Look, subhanallah, look who I'm in the company with. And there's a reason for it. Last year, I wasn't in a position like this. Last year, it was the complete opposite. But it all comes back to the same thing, which, they've been mentioning this whole time. It comes back to Quran, it comes back to Sunnah, it comes back to ultimately Allah. That's the only way.
And going back to the point of delivery, is that you can't go to a kids' gathering and talk about Wirafa. You can't. The level that you deliver your speeches and who you're talking to, you have to know your audience. If your audience is kids, you're not going to turn around and give them facts about this is how many people were in Badr, this is exactly who died and all the names. They're gonna go crazy.
Speak to them in accordance.
Is this statement true that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he basically went through every kind of tribulation that the human being can go through? So therefore, when somebody came to him, man, woman or child, he could relate to them, and he would be like at their position, at their level, and speak to them at their level. Now, one of my friends, he wanted to be we call him community officer, helping like a social worker. So he went to his Sheikh, and he's a Sheikh. So what you want to do? He goes marriage counselling. Because there's a big problem, high divorce rate. So after that, he was regularly having fights with his wife. So he goes back to the Sheikh. I'm really problems in my own home. He said, you wanted to be a marriage counsellor, so there Allah's teaching you. You wanted to be a so the thing is that one thing that we shouldn't do is, if a Sheikh, and this is really important, if a Sheikh is going through a problem, or a pious Muslim, you're going through don't demean them. Don't think Allah hates them, Allah doesn't like. The Prophet ﷺ said, I've been tested more than any other prophet. So we should. So going through problems is the experience, and that secret which I was talking about before. I'll just tell you something that happened today. To a young man, what happened today was he had a problem with his parents. His parents were really infuriated with him, and because he shouted and he went off the shelf, and so he was very upset as well. And they said, Ramadan, you go to Tarawih, you have a beard, you have good company, and all this kind of, what's wrong with you? What's happened to you? And something dangerous happened to him. He said, I was falling into despair, into hopelessness, and hopelessness is kufr. So I was falling into despair, and at one level I felt that very numb in my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, because of what happened in the home. Like, I felt very, very numb. But deep inside that secret that Allah has kept in there, that personal relationship, he said, but deep inside though, I was ignoring it. It was like a blind spot for me. I felt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is up to something. He's going to do something. He has a plan for me. So he was totally lost as to how am I supposed to please my parents? My fasts are going to be ruined, all the Tarawih is going to be ruined, all the efforts which I'm making as well. How am I supposed to please? And then the answer came. And he said the answer came in an amazing way. What actually happened was something came to me where it was like, take the wasila of Hazrat Fatima. He said, I don't know where this voice came from. I don't know what happened, but I took the wasila, and within the next 5 minutes, my parents were kissing me. So the thing is, then afterwards he went, oh, Allah, definitely Allah's up to something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us and searches us out, even if we don't love him that much. And Allah desires us more than we desire him. something
to remember. Says Allah loves to meet his slave, and the slave should love to meet his creator, right? Yeah. Whoever dislikes to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah is not, it goes to the hadith you mentioned, I think last time, about your opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's what it was here. This person understood, my opinion of Allah is that He has wisdom in what's happening to me.
Yeah.
And that understanding of the wisdom happening to him did something, actually more important than resolving the whole thing. You know what it did? Gave him peace of mind.
The amazing
thing
happened
he said, after that, he had that peace of mind, right? There's something going on, and he was calm now. Where people go through this anxiety and depression.
I just remembered, what he actually said to me, which I forgot, a crucial point. He said, I did not remember the wisdom. Allah put it in me to remember the wisdom. I forgot that bit.
The thing you mentioned about he had peace in his heart, is that what you call al-qalbun salim?
Yes, just to mention that Allah says in the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On that day where no wealth or children will give any benefit except for the one who comes to Allah with a sound, pure, good heart. And this pure, good heart is the heart that has been nurtured with Iman. I mean, let's go a bit basic, It's really important that people worship, because the worship is what builds that understanding. The dhikr, the salah, the fasting, the charity, even volunteering and helping others. There's many ways. You could read the Quran, you could help your mum and dad, you could clean up at home. All these things are part of the etiquettes, the adab, the training. This is how the spiritual masters would train.
It's not just a formal class.
Yeah, that's right. No.
The class is everywhere.
It's everywhere. Everything's a class.
Everything's a class.
Everything you
Every
experience.
opportunity is a learning opportunity.
It's a learning opportunity. And this is why Ramadan is such a spiritual uplift time, because we are engaging that a little bit more. We are staying away from haram that a little bit more. We are putting the effort in to make a better connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what we all seek. So I think truly deep down, we seek to be with people. We're social creation. We like company, we like chilling out, we like talking to others, we like being with people we love. But truly our soul desires to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
How about saying it this way, because we don't want to put viewers off, we're going to be in ibadat a lot and we're going to learn class. If Allah loves for me to go and play football, I'm going to go and play football. If Allah loves for me to spend time with my wife, I'm going to spend time with my wife. If Allah loves for me to have dessert today, I'm going to have dessert today. Now the question is, how do you know that Allah loves that?
That it brings you closer to Him. That that you see that this action is going to be productive for me. So you're playing football for the health, for the teammates, for the bonding with your friends. If you're just going and eating loads of ice cream and it's harming your health and all of that, I don't think Allah loves for you to harm your health, right? But if you're having ice cream with your kids or with your friends, that social interaction, at a time you're not neglecting your prayers and so on and so forth. So I think you've got to look at everything that, so what you mentioned, this is maybe a good thing for people to help them in their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have obligations and we have prohibitions. We all know about that. But in the middle of all of this lies the mubah, as we call it, or the admissible. It's not halal or haram. It's not haram or required. It's okay. Like if there's no good or bad intention in it, then having a piece of fruit is having a piece of fruit, right? Or talking about a football match is talking about a football match. Now, if that mubah or permissible activity causes us to fall in the haram or neglect a duty, then that activity has encroached, and gone into the wrong. If we doing it have the wrong intention behind it, I remember a Sheikh gave the example of a paper. He says, the internet and all these things we've got, it's like paper. Because somebody could take a piece of paper and write the Quran on it and write hadith on it and benefit people. Somebody else could write foul language on that same piece of paper and use it. The paper isn't halal or haram. The paper is a means of doing good or bad. So your time and these areas that are for relaxation, for entertainment, for playing with others, there's time for that in Islam. And you should do that because your heart needs a bit of rest, you need a bit of time to relax. But it all goes back to that balance with everything else. I think this lack of balance is what actually causes the disequilibrium in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We fall I'm not worshipping enough, I'm doing too many permissible things, but I'm actually then fulfilling my obligations, I'm not praying on time, I'm making my prayers up, I'm compromising in my deen in certain ways. So it's all goes back to that, finding a balance so that you can make a strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's really a core part of it.
So how do you know that Allah is angry with you and punishing you in whatever you do? or Allah is kind and merciful and you've won His pleasure. Well, one of the Sheikh said that after that incident happens, if you're going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means that He's happy with you. And if you're going away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not happy with you. Like, for example, one guy, he was feeling really down and he said, I'm not one of these guys who can go to Zikr and feel pleasure and stuff. You know what, I'm going to watch a comedy movie. Yeah, so he said to his teacher, can I watch a comedy movie? He goes, yeah, watch a comedy movie with no women in it and a few other things and no violence and stuff. And he was thinking, where I'm going to find that. But anyway, he found one. He saw it. But once, you on the hype, and he was happy with the good laugh. Said, then when he ended, he wanted to watch another one. Yeah. So the point, the first bit, okay, that was okay. But the second bit and the third, what you're saying, that disequilibrium, that imbalance that occurs there. And now, the one who sets the balance is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always the reset button. You're going to say?
No.
So I remember Hafiz Fahim mentioning on a previous podcast, I'll share it again, which fits in right here. I think he mentioned a general story of somebody who was committing the haram in terms of transactions and stuff. And he wasn't doing tawbah from it. And he wasn't going to the mosque and praying and asking after the prayers. He wasn't giving his charity and zakat. And what he thought was, because nothing bad is happening to me, I'm okay. So he kept on doing this thing, thinking nothing bad, kept on doing this thing. So eventually he went to a Sheikh and he said, I've been doing all this haram all this time. Allah has not done anything to me. There's no problem. And he said, what have you done in these last 5-10 years? You prayed salah? He goes, no. He goes, you given your zakat? He goes, no. You read the Quran? He goes, no. He goes, what bigger punishment could you have had? You might think you got away with it in a health basis or a calamity basis. But if you've not been praying and talking to Allah, making du'as and fasting and all that, then that is Allah. So like you said, it goes back to what you said, isn't it? That if you're after these bad things or good things, whatever it is, either going to Allah or away from Allah, that's the sign. That's the sign. So he was not getting a bad dunya, he was actually doing good. People are in sin and have got ease in their lives. But what is that? What's that doing to them? It's taking them away from Allah.
I've heard this, I don't remember which one, I can't remember who said it, but it was, if you want to see your position with Allah, where you stand with Allah, look at where you are with your deen. Look at your deen. If you're praying your salah, you know that Allah is pleased with you. Because you're being given the ability to pray your salah. Being given that ability alone is a ni'mah.
It's the same thing what I just said, but the other way around. And actually, I remember somebody saying this. There was, a student of a Sheikh, and people go and they want to see dreams. They want to see miracles. I did Zikr for so long, I didn't see anything. So one of them, after 10 years, he's hearing from everybody else the dreams they've seen and all the things they've experienced, and he hasn't had anything himself. So he's like, something's wrong with me. What's wrong? I'm going to go to the Sheikh and ask him. So he goes to his teacher. Sheikh goes, look, you've given all Zikr, we're doing our ibadat, because I've been praying 5 times a day, I've been doing Zikr, I've been doing Quran, fasting, because I haven't had, this epiphany moment, magical feeling, a dream or something. And he said, what have you been doing for the last 10 years? Because that in itself, what you have, you just described it. You did salah, the fasting, the dhikr, all of that is Allah gave you that. Alhamdulillah, where you are with your deen is the biggest sign you're on the right path. So we've got to be careful. We don't think of a calamity being Allah is, it's a bad for us, or a blessing, or let's say no difficulty in life being a bad thing for us. It just depends on where you are going in your journey with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I think the way you also
pragmatism as well in it. And I think there's a story of a wali where they were praying by the ocean, I believe, or something like that. And there was another wali who was walking on the water, and they said, look at him, and he said, well, the one who fulfills the obligation is better than him. Meaning there's always that sense of pragmatism, is what I was saying. And I think it's Sheikh al-Buti rahimahullah al-Shahid who said a calamity that brings you closer to Allah is a blessing. And prosperity that takes you away from Allah is a punishment.
Me and my wife went to India on a trip, and we went to a darbar, visiting darbars throughout India. And so
what's a darbar?
It's a shrine where there's awliya too. And we were coming back from Kochota Sharif, and so
did they let you into India?
Alhamdulillah. I work for the UK government. And no, actually, I used to get my visa just like the Indians, because I took my because we work for the local government, so I went to the area. That's a long story. So and then she had a dream of the Sayyid Makhdoom Jahangir Samnani rahmatullahi. And I was like looking at her, my wife had the dream. I didn't have the dream. That kind of thing. Who's she? I took her to classes and stuff. Okay, yeah. So then I was looking a bit glum, and the Sheikh, they said, why are you looking glum? And she had the dream and I never. He goes, sometimes Allah shows you to bring you closer to him, like a miracle or something. Sometimes he doesn't show you and bring you close, because then you want him more. You have this this desire, this crazy desire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hikmah. We got a few quick fire questions. One is, which is the best zikr to do?
أفضل الذكر لا إله إلا الله.
This is the one that يثبت الإيمان. Iman is firm with this. يحصل الأمان, security. يشفي الصدور, cures the hearts of its problems. يغفر الذنوب, removes sins. La ilaha illallah is the most powerful dhikr, but I would always couple dhikr personally with Durood Sharif beginning and end. Durood Sharif is the full package.
Full package, isn't it? Alhamdulillah. The other one, what's the best way to learn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, and how do we imply them in our life? I think we've been going through that.
Listen to the previous podcast.
Okay.
Names of Allah, how to connect to them.
And the other one
first of all, I would attend classes like Khalid was saying, but also read about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The best book is Imam Ghazali's Beautiful Names of Allah, 99 Beautiful Names of Allah.
I still remember, that in university when you did the Sanusi Creed, I am not joking with you. I myself, the other students told me, but I myself, honestly, I used to come there, in my gym clothes, after gym. So I am not joking with you. Just that Sanusi Creed made me fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I just remembered something about Sanusi Creed, which we taught that time, but the meaning of La ilaha illallah is mentioned in there. It's actually what you said earlier, believe it or not. It says, La mustaghniya anhu siwahu. There is no one who is not in need of him. Everyone is in need of him. And he is not in need of anything else. That's the meaning of La ilaha illallah. Everything else is in need of him, and he is not in need of anything.
And to go back,
if you have Allah, what don't you have? And if you don't have Allah, what do you have?
And to go back to the point of what they're saying about just learn the names of Allah off by heart. There's plenty of YouTube videos you can actually listen to that repeat the names of Allah. Listen to it, learn it, and once you've learned it, then you learn the
Sheikh mentioned this as well. These YouTube videos,
even if you don't understand the name,
just learn. Just the ritual without even understanding it.
Just the mention on the tongue.
Absolutely. Even reading the Quran, without even understand
the meaning of Arabic words. Instead of just saying Arabic, though, understanding the meaning has a deeper impact on your heart.
It does. You should work your way to that, but don't stop yourself from saying the names because you don't understand them.
We did a zikr once with youngsters, and we did it all in. We did the zikr all in English. So basically, one of them is Allah is watching me, Allah is watching me, etc., etc. So we were doing it all in English.
Can I ask a panel question? Off people behind the off air can answer the question. I recently came across this, hence I'm asking this, and it's related to what you just said. For new Muslims or Muslims who don't know Arabic, can they read their salah in English?
Oh Lord, somebody just asked that only I think last week, and the Sheikh replied and I forgot the reply.
Bismillah.
Which Sheikh was it?
I forgot I even forgot the name of the Sheikh.
So I know the students here, scholars would know that Imam Abu Hanifa did have one opinion that you can read your salah in Farsi, which meant non-Arabic language. So he is a new Muslim. They honestly don't know any Arabic or the language. Can they read their salah if they know to learn it in English? Before they learn the Arabic, of course.
While they're going to learn it.
As long as you make an active effort to learn the Arabic.
Absolutely.
Because the Arabic has a sweetness to it as well.
I guess later down the line that would make a big difference. Anyway.
And for those who are doing the opposite, who are reading Arabic but don't know the meaning as well, there's a deficiency there.
There's a certain power in the Arabic language, isn't it?
So my point of bringing that was what you're just saying there, that it really does help to know what you're saying. Imam Hanifa didn't give the opinion of saying in Farsi because you just know the language. You know what you're saying. You understand.
This is what I was trying to say.
He didn't say you can do it in English because the people didn't speak English. It's what Farsi. Had he been here or we'd give the fatwa here, it'd be. So this is a clear sign that the scholars understood, and the ruling is basically from a fiqh perspective. You should understand what you're doing.
Can we interpret that further? Like, for example, how we can interpret that further is not just the language, but also there's, for example, now I'm going to get a bit controversial, but as always. So basically, there's Mehfil Sama, for example.
Well, that's not controversial.
Okay, and there's
Mehfil Sama means a gathering of nasheeds and audition and listening to songs and poetry.
Sometimes the musical instruments.
Accompanied with instruments.
Maybe that's a.
But it may not be. If it's not, there's no difference of opinions allowed.
So
if it is, then the instrument element.
I'm going to push it a little further now.
Yeah.
So basically, I know some youngsters who came onto Islam after after listening to certain Bollywood songs because they were about love of women. But they translated that into the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they were in need of Allah more than the women. So the thing is that, there's different ways that sort of people come. We're not disclaimer. We're not actually saying. We're just going step by step.
I mean, isn't that the whole concept of Qawwalis though?
Absolutely.
Isn't that where the Qawwali started?
Absolutely.
It was that gateway. It was the gateway
absolutely.
into Islam.
I went to his darbars.
It was the gateway into Islam.
Yeah.
And again, if anything leads you to Islam, know that at the end of it, if it's brought you closer to Allah,
just explain that. Even that was in the subcontinent, right? Yeah. Even in like Damascus, there was the Sheikh Abdul Ghani and Nablusi, rahmatullahi. I know the story of that. Yeah. Basically, at that time, people were into music and instruments and music, and it was distraction, lahu. Yeah. It was taking them to wrong places, wrong people, wrong environment. So what Sheikh Abdul Ghani Nablusi did was he got the instruments and put them in the masjid. Yeah. He put them in the masjid, not outside. He put them in the masjid. He said, "Come." Yeah. Listen, and he didn't play songs that they would obviously listen to. He played poetry which was praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, your iman, your love of Allah, and people were like, this is awesome, let's go and let's experience that. And then what they're doing, they're praying when they go to the mosque, they're thinking of Allah when they go to the mosque. That you said, it's not a love song, it's your connection with Allah. It's greater than the love song.
See, I used to listen to a lot of music stuff back in the day.
And he's got a book about the permissibility of musical instruments. It's controversial because he's not a leading Hanafi fiqh jurist, but he is mashallah qualified in his own right.
It's kind of like a gateway drug into your salah, isn't it?
So these statements are controversial.
Gateway drug, okay. Moeen, calm down.
I don't endorse any.
No, but you know what though? It does work though, because I do it myself every single night. That's what I listen to instead of, even in the daytime. Sometimes I think, you know what? Let me put this track on instead of that.
Yeah, I know a lot of brothers listen to Qawwalis. Even my cousins actually got into Qawwalis or heard them for the first time through my cousins in Pakistan. They were playing them, I didn't understand them, so he was translating for me. He's saying, then I was like, this is what this Qawwali means. Like, brilliant, right? Because we just hear the sound. Awesome.
Yeah, we're just going to hear for the hip hop.
We're going to hear for the rhythm and the beats, and it's no different. So when he explained it to me, I didn't used to listen to it because of that reason. I just thought it was that hip hop, rhythms and beats and dance track. Basically.
Interpreting.
When he explained it to me, I was like, what? And he started telling me there's Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, there's Aziz Mian, there's this is my favorite, this is my favorite. This guy turned out to be a fake. He knew the history of Qawwalis.
Mashallah.
So he was into that, and he's into the language as well, because it's a certain type of language within the Qawwali and the pronunciations.
And interpreting that a bit further, so I don't know about your end, Sheikh, but in Victoria Park Masjid, the Imams, some of them are here. Your end being, you'll understand in a second. So the Imams of Victoria Park Masjid, they dress very nice. They have very nice cars. So I
don't dress nice and have a nice car.
No, you do, but you look a bit more traditional than Okay, so I haven't seen your car yet. I haven't seen your car yet. But when you ask why, it's like the attraction for the youngsters, the ulama of people of izzah, people of respect, people of honor. Yes, you should dress nice. I mean, I always see them dressing better than me. All the time. So the thing is that you look up to people. So there's nothing wrong in however you bring people into the deen. I see
your point. Yeah.
You understand. So there's many different attempts.
We don't do it for the dunya aspect of it. Yeah. We do it to make it a means of people coming toward Allah. Because that's what they see. They see, I've seen on YouTube people, or not YouTube, whatever, social media, sheikhs with big nice cars. They're showing it. Yeah. But that's making young Muslims thinking, the sheikh's got a nice car. It's a sheikh at the end of the day. He's at the masjid. Yeah. Sometimes they go and play football with them. They go and relax with them. So imams have to cater. It's that way in. It's the door in. It's like that door you talk about opening. If you're closing all the doors to people and said you got to dress like this, you got to be like this, you got to do this, and they're like, that's not what we want to do.
Yeah. So Sheikh Waseem's dress isn't the only dress you can have. There like many different.
I came on here with a hoodie last time.
Oh, you did, mashallah. Missed that. Okay. But the guy does have logo, mashallah. So
marketing tactic.
Another quick question. Those people who do the Zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is like a crucial question from the other side now. And they read 5 times salah, they go to the parents, they're doing everything good, but they don't feel the flavor, mazar, taste, pleasure of the ibadah or of the khidmat-e-khalq that they do, or the knowledge that they learn in classes. So the question was, does this mean that Allah's upset with me and I don't know why?
No.
I think those people are of a higher spiritual rank than the ones who are feeling
Allah.
I think they need a bit more than man.
Yeah.
So they need a lot more.
It goes back to many factors. there could be something they're doing wrong, they don't know. This is why it's important, like Hafiz Saab said previous podcast, to have the connection to the Sheikh and the permission and the guidance. I remember one story where a disciple was reading Sida Burda to see the Prophet ﷺ, and he would, again and again, thousands of times, he didn't see the Prophet ﷺ in his dream. So he went to the Sheikh and he said, look, I want to see the Prophet ﷺ, I'll be doing this. I've heard it from many Sheikhs, I've even heard it from yourself, it's not happening for me. He said, read. So he started reading, and he wasn't reading Mola Yasalli wa Sallim Da'iman Abadan ala Habibika Khairi Khalqi Kullihim after every line, every 2 lines. He was just reading the Qisa Burda to get through it, like quickly read it. And he wouldn't get why he missed the element of the durood, the salutations. So the Sheikh didn't say you were wrong, said you're supposed to read it like this, go and read it like this. And after reading it a few times, because he had the sincerity, he had everything in place, he saw the Prophet ﷺ. So that could be a reason. It might not be. That could be a reason where if you don't take the guidance of ulama, scholars, spiritual, guides, then you may not be putting things together correctly. There's a methodology to attain certain outcomes and benefits of dhikr and so on and so forth. And it's also what you got to remember is Allah's testing you as well. Allah loves your call, doesn't want to give you the answer. I want you to keep calling on me. So don't worry, you're beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Hafiz said.
So are you worshipping the pleasure, or are you worshipping Allah?
The fact that you are calling upon Allah is a clear enough sign you're on the right path.
You're on the right path.
Carry on.
If you find yourself sat in Darus regularly, the house of Allah, look, you're not going to come into my house every single day unless I really like you. That's the reality. If those people, they're always in the house of Allah, they're praying 5 times a day, praying, and they're in the rules and everything, that's a sign Allah loves you already. What more do you want from Allah? What more do you want?
And when you got brothers like this
and whatever they feel they're lacking, Allah is generous, and His true generosity will be demonstrated in Qiyamah when you enter Jannah. There's something great made for those people. Ask Allah to make us from those people who are that istiqamah.
Do you have any more questions? I've got one I want to ask if there's not one. So we're talking about the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and where you are, and sometimes getting mixed up and doing all of this. But what I've noticed is that there's a lot of depression, problems, and all these kind of things, and people seek the solution in Islam. And they say, look, let's come to, and they don't find it then, right? And they think, well, Islam doesn't work for me, right? So they almost want Islam to be a cure, and not religion. You like Sheikh Saab gave me zikr, didn't benefit, leave Sheikh Saab, leave the namaz, So I think this is a really important part. We're going to touch upon our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
They're not focusing on
how does Surah Ankabut begin? Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman Alif Lam Mim, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. It's one of the things when someone reverts and I do take their shahada, I tell them, don't be deluded that the grass is going to become more greener now and you live in this utopia. No, if anything, Allah is going to put you to the test of this claim that you've made when you say Ashhadu, I bear witness, I believe.
That's the meaning of the ayah.
That do people really think that they'll be left alone? حَسِبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا, just because they've said Amanna, I believe. Allah says in the following ayah, we tested those who came before them to see who's truthful and who's lying in his claim of faith. So to answer that point is, don't come to Islam seeking that. Islam will give you that, definitely. It will give you a piece of the soul. Peace, contentment of the soul.
I think this is the real crucial point that everybody listening needs to take on in their lives. What you just said there, that you have to approach life, Islam, in your worship, as a part of developing in your life, not as a solution to every problem, but as a means of dealing with every problem. It's not that nothing bad will happen to me because I'm a Muslim. Nothing wrong can happen once I practice. All my problems will go away once I start praying and fasting and everything. This is not how it worked for the prophets before us, for the people, the previous prophets and their people, and this is how it's going to be till the end of time. The mention of testing us as humans is throughout the Quran. It's a common theme. That this is my message here. The one make a point that we've lost it as a common theme. It's a rarity. People remember this or think of this. Yet for the previous prophets, I remember one of my teachers saying, if life is good, I get worried. Why have I got no problems? Why do I feel okay for? Why is nobody arguing with me? Why has I got no problem? And he goes, when something happens, because I think, alhamdulillah, it's like, there's a difficulty, I got to deal with it. Because I feel okay.
Allah's got me in view.
I got to sort something out now. I got to deal with this. Because when there's nothing happening, because I get worried. Has Allah left me alone to just do nothing? Am I in a bad situation? So having ease and no problems in life doesn't mean you're in a good spiritual place.
Going back to that point as well, like the question is that, and going back to the start of the podcast, or I think it was the previous podcast, is mentioning that have that conversation with Allah. Ask Allah. if you're not asking Allah for these things, Allahumma inni as'aluka whatever yaqinan sadiqa, you ask Allah for everything you need. If you want that yaqeen, you have to ask Allah. If you want that ilm, you ask Allah. If you want that you know, what is it called? If you want to have that ease in your heart, you have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that ease. If you don't ask Allah, you don't get. It's like if I want to get food off you now, if I want to get a cup of tea, I have to ask for that cup of tea. If I say it all day and expect someone to ask me, 9 times out of 10 they probably won't. I mean, we live in a household where they probably would. But if you go somewhere, they might not ask you. You have to ask for things.
And Allah is unlike insan in the sense that insan, the more you ask him, the more annoyed he is. But Allah, the more you ask him, the more he loves.
See, 2 years ago, I was actually struggling with staying on salah, and I found that, as well as making dua, is also beneficial for me. What worked was breathing techniques and things like this. What actually worked and helped slowly develop it.
You know, this was the final point which I was waiting to end on, but Sheikh Waseem mentioned it. You know, the word in the Quran, people really get confused with it when it translated as like test. Instead of test, can we instead of that say development?
Yeah, I mean the word fitna, yuftanun,
opportunity.
It has a meaning. It almost has a meaning of rectification.
Rectification, isn't it?
It's that there's something not right, so you have to go through. You know, I think they use the example of gold, isn't it? You have to burn gold sometimes to get rid of the extra undesired elements to get pure gold at the end of it. So in a sense, even the believers that go to the hellfire, it's not a punishment. It's a purification. We see it as that. You know, you can call it punishment, but the purpose of it is a purification. So in this life, as the hadith says, the person goes through trials, tribulations until he leaves this life free of any sin, any worries, and he goes to the akhirah in all a good circumstance. But he may have sinned, he may have done wrong, but through the trials and tribulations, you are relieved of sins.
I think
ranks are raised as well. So these difficulties are not punishments or hard times just for the sake of it. There is a process of development, of rectification, opportunity. But we have to make the right response. We have to take on the prophetic guidance and deal with the situation. And that's the hard part we talked about. What's the inroad to that? It takes tawfiq, it takes guidance, it takes time. You might not get it right the first time. But I will say this to everybody. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha illa ma ataha. Right? Allah only burdens a soul and tests a soul with what it's capable of dealing with, right? Let's translate it like that. So you're able to deal with anything put your way.
Even if it's sin. So for example,
put you there, you can get you out of it.
Yeah. So if I
you
sin,
have the ability, God-given ability to deal with it.
So if I, for example, sinned, I upset my parents, for example. Very bad thing to do. If I sinned because I was watching movies all night and eating junk food and I didn't get up for Fajr, but then still, that test, that development, Allah still got my back. In other words, He's gonna now bring again, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and cares for me more than I love and care for myself. He's going to bring me back. He's going to bring me back. He's not going to let go of me. One brother, Moeen was saying they ask for this, ask for this. One brother, like what Sheikh was saying, some people have got deep depression and they don't know where it's come from. They even say, I want to get rid of it, but I don't know how. It just comes to me and it's just not going away. So he was very confused as to what to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know what he said? And this solved his problem. He stood up and he said, Ya Allah, here I am. And he suddenly began to feel better. He said, I don't know what to ask. Ya Allah, here I am.
That's it. Just open up.
I think he
opened up.
He opened up.
Without asking for anything, he said, you know better.
I think it's important for people to realise that when you come close to Allah, your problems won't go away. Like, you'll still have your issues, but you still have that contentment.
That's
like, even though you have the problems, you'll say
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Maybe in difficulty, but inwardly you'll have that contentment. In the hadith that whoever loves Allah and His Messenger, they let him prepare for calamities, just like a flood rushes to his goal. Things are going to hit you hard. I know a brother like this. When he described his life to me, I was thinking of the hadith. So he said, a business partner did me over in the business. My wife divorced me. I lost my taxi license. I was, 6 months in. He had a cancer. He didn't have cancer. He had like a heart disease come up. He had to go to hospital, have operation. And he goes, one after the other, these things were hitting me. And I looked at him and he's a solid brother. He's gone and studied abroad now, and he's prays 5 times a day. Was raised children upon Islam. Okay, he's divorced, whatever. But his state of mind, and I was like, Allah loves this brother.
But I think once
when Sheikh Waseem broke his leg the second time, he said, "Subhanallah, what development!"
But I think once you go through all these trials and tribulations,
it's two places.
Two places.
Oh, it's not 2 times. It's 1 time.
Allah loves you, Sheikh.
Once you go through all these trials and tribulations, in the end, on the other side, once you see what you've been through and what Allah has tested you with, you're a lot more happier in life anyway.
That is one of our Sheikh Shahat al-Azzazi in Egypt from Wazarat al-Awqaf. He said when Allah when you're in the womb of your mother, Allah decreed 4 things for you, and one of the things He decreed was your maqam in Jannah. And so what He does, He sends fitna your way, trials and tribulations and opportunities and developments, as you said, so that you earn it, because you're not earning it through your worship.
So
he goes, even if you fail that test, you didn't worship enough, you didn't get past your tests. He said He makes death difficult upon you, because at the end of the day, Allah just wants you to get to where He wants you. He wants you to get to that test.
That goes back to the hadith, the affair of the believer is all good.
It's so good.
That's it. Every time, difficulty, hardship, ease, is as long as you have the right perspective, that I'm going to get through this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I asked a Sheikh, there was, it's like, we would think about having a dream of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, or a high maqam in Al-Jannah, Jannah al-Firdaus, neighbor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would see him. We're asking for big things. We're asking for big things.
Exactly the same way, but close to.
Yeah, closer. Or don't see the cup, but see the hand that's giving the cup. The big things. We're talking about big things.
Mushahada, or
witnessing. When we're doing that, the question is why. That's another podcast. So when we're asking for all of that, why? The question is why.
Why are we asking for it?
Why we're asking for it? Because here's the point. At a deeper level, it could be a good selfishness, but there's something even better than that, which is only to please Allah. Like I'm praying, I want to see the Prophet. Okay, I love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because Allah wants me to love him.
There's a hikmah. Just remember it from Imam Ibn Ata'illah. The hikmah is a piece of wisdom.
Yes.
The hikam that we call al-ata'iyya, or from Imam Ibn Ata'illah. It's Imam Ibn Ata'illah says, تشوفك إلى ما كشف عنك من العيوب خير لك من تشوفك على ما كشف عنك من الغيوب. And the difference between the ghuyub, the unseen, and the uyub, the defect, is a nuqta. So, but the meaning of the hikam is your pining and seeking out what is hidden of you, of your defects, is more beloved to Allah and better for you than to seek out what is hidden from you of the unseen. The principle is what you said, is to rectify myself and look out for what's wrong within me. That will qualify you for everything else, to be beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you're just seeking that, it's like that whimsical thing, you're seeking that, you're not actually seeking what's wrong with you and preparing yourself to be entered in. It's called adab, isn't it? And I've mentioned a story of Imam Ahmad Zaruqi mentions in one of his books about this whole topic, where he talks about seeing the jinn. He said there was a worship, he wanted to see the jinn. So he's making dua, Allah, show me the jinn, I want to see the jinn, the world of the jinn. And he's worshipped for hundreds of years and he's making dua. And he's not getting the answer to his dua. So one day he thinks to himself, what's wrong with me? Ya Allah, show me what's wrong with me so I can get a dua that answers that I can see the jinn. So Allah sends an angel and says, that dua you just made there is more beloved to Allah than all your previous du'as. That, oh Allah, show me what's wrong with myself so I can be a better person, is better than asking for Jannah and this and that. And Allah's so happy with that dua, you can go and see the jinn now. Okay, so he steps out of his house and he says, I see these people, these things everywhere. This person, that person, here, there. Because they're just everywhere you look, left, right, center, the jinn are out there. That's the end of the story, which teaches various lessons. Jinn is another topic, maybe.
Absolutely.
But the point is that the story is mentioned there to relate the fact that what should we be seeking? What's our duty that Allah has given us? He's not said to us, go and seek massive openings and visions and dreams. They're gifts from Allah. They're gifts. Allah will, and there's another hikmah says, Man la wirda lahu, la warida lahu. The one who hasn't got wird, which is zikr and wazifa, then he's not going to get a gift. There's no warid, there's no gift from Allah. So Allah is saying the means to the gifts are the worship. But you can't do them for the gift, you got to do them for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's why, so the point, the twist on the thing. So basically, I want to become a better Muslim. Why? Because it pleases Allah. That's it.
That's it. You leave the rest to Allah
next
subhanahu wa ta'ala.
podcast.
Okay, so we are now finished.
Jazakumullah.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam.